Okay, hello. Oh, hello, my friend, and thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be part of the Australasian Institute of Digital Health. My name is Caleb, but my friends call me Kel, so please feel free to do so. I am a major stroke survivor, and I'm also a storyteller and the founder and chief visionary officer of Genius, which is an Australian social enterprise on the mission to eliminate isolation for people touched by life-changing trauma. So my purpose for being with you today is because I feel very privileged because I want to share my story with you, or some of my story with you, and also to hopefully stimulate your thinking about how you can essentially help eliminate isolation for people touched by life-changing trauma. So to thrust you back into the beginnings of my story, I want to take you back into the inciting incident. It's a good place to start. You might know what the inciting incident is of a story, but if you don't, the inciting incident is kind of like, it's the tornado in The Wizard of Oz, or it's like when Frodo finds the ring in Lord of the Rings. It's the moment that sort of propels the protagonist, the leading role, into the rest of the story. So we'll go back to my inciting incident now. So 3 days after I turned 24, I had a major stroke due to a very rare brain abnormality called a dural arteriovenous malformation. The type of stroke I had was a grade 5 subarachnoid hemorrhage, which basically stands for the most severe grading of the rarest type of stroke. So it might not look it, but actually this is quite a good day for me. I've been taken off life support and I'm now breathing through a tracheostomy. And though I'm not conscious, there's more response that I'm able to give. Though, as you can probably imagine, my family are going through huge despair as to what the outcome is going to be of my quality of life going forward. Because all my functions have shut down, essentially for me, what feels like the blink of an eye, but was a much longer time for my family. I went from being this professional actor, singer, dancer, to suddenly needing to relearn how to walk, how to talk, how to swallow, and not knowing how to sneeze even. And in that process, I remember when I first came to out of the coma times, and I remember my mum sitting at the foot of my bed, and I just remember seeing through a very skewed vision. I've got double vision, a condition called diplopia, and I've got a nystagmus. So because I have my bleed right back here, my balance center isn't what it used to be. So I need some help in knowing where my body is in space. And all this had started back then, but I had no ability to communicate it because I also had a paralyzed vocal cord. And I remember looking at my mum at the foot of my bed, not knowing that I was in a hospital, but wanting to say something, but not being able to. And I just looked at her through very skewed vision. And I remember thinking, oh my God, she just looks so, comfy. She's been there for so long. And I didn't know that obviously she had been there for so long. She'd been there for over a month, sitting there at the foot of my bed while my body had gone through getting septicemia, pneumonia, meningitis, all these other big health issues. But really, they had been having to deal with it whilst my body was trying to manage it. But the importance of this is that this set off the trajectory of the isolation that I felt. I felt completely voiceless, physically and emotionally. And all I wanted was to be able to connect with another person who'd experienced something similar to me. I certainly, as a young person, did not know what a stroke was. I never thought that I was having a stroke, and I didn't understand what that meant for my quality of life. My understanding about the narrative of a stroke was that it was an old person's thing, and that to be honest, I actually didn't even know. I just didn't know. But all I did know is that I wanted to connect with someone like me, but to try and find that person was just impossible. So cut to a couple of years later, I've done about I do about 2.5 years of rehab all up. So about a year and a half of that and as an outpatient. And I remember going to my first young stroke survivor support group meeting. And it was like, I remember we were going into Fed Square, like all walking. It's like, I had a walking stick and an eye patch, and someone else is like in a chair, and someone else has got like a crutch or whatever. Everyone's got like all different aids and stuff. And I remember I was like, this is so badass. We're like the Avengers, like walking into Fed Square. And I remember we sat down, and then it became like, okay, let's all talk and let's sort of get to know one another. And the first person was like, hi, I'm Daniel. I was like, hi, Daniel. He's like, I'm a carotid artery dissection, left-sided hemiplegia, and a bit of aphasia. Everyone's like, oh, hi, Daniel. And the next person's like, oh, hi, I'm Bev. I'm a basal ganglion hemorrhagic stroke, right-sided hemiplegia, with a little bit of dysarthria. Everyone's like, oh, hi, Bev. And then it got to me, and I was like, I'm Cal. I'm Cal, and I'm a person who wants to perform and be seen, and I've got a partner. Well, I don't anymore, but I had a partner, and I want to express myself, and I want to connect with you and learn more about what we're all experiencing, but also, I don't know, I want it to be a bit of fun and feel engaging. But that wasn't how it felt. It was like we were just reduced to our symptoms. We just felt like a collection of symptoms, not like a posse of peeps just hanging out. And I was like, why is that not there? And so cut to a little bit after that, I was like, okay, so I've kind of got a little bit of the stroke posse. It's a bit clinical, but it's still there, and I've got my social connections, and I'm ready to start dating because, as I said, the partner that ended. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start dating. And on the advice of my clinical psych, I joined an online dating platform. This is like 11 years ago, so it wasn't like, the full bells and whistles of Grindr. It wasn't as classy as that. No, it was classier than that. But I was like, okay, so I'm going to try and put out, how it gets to like the about me in any of those dating things, and don't pretend you haven't done one of these dating things. I was like, okay, I would fill out about me. And I remember that day, I've been doing like a high mat assessment, like this assessment about how I can hop on one side, on my affected side versus my non-affected side, between two cones. And I was also practicing like the Masako and the Mendelssohn maneuver, which are techniques to help you swallow. And I'm like, that's going to be a little bit tricky to put that down on my preferences for my profile, online dating. So I was like, I have no idea how to share my story. I've got no idea how to talk about who I am, what I want, what I'm experiencing, and for it to feel sexy and not sexual, but for it to feel palatable and for it to evoke compassion and curiosity. I just was like, I have no idea how to do this. And I realized that no one did. So I took all of this isolation, this reduction, and this sense of disempowerment to my dad. And I was like, Dad, I want to create this sort of community of Gen Y people, like this survivor group, like Gen Y United Survivors, and I want us to be able to connect and collaborate, and I want it to feel good. And he was like, okay. So he was my fantastic advisor and has been on me, been partnered with me on this journey. And so I started a Facebook group. And in this Facebook group, it all started with just like 8 people, not even in a group. It was actually a chat thread to begin with. And I made a video I interviewed all these survivors from around the world about their stories. And I wanted to see if our stories connected. I really wanted to be honest, like the performer in me, a little bit insatiable, wanted to like sort of share some of my story and see if that resonated with other people. Much to my dismay, no one wanted to hear my story because every single person had a story of their own. And I realized, oh my God, I'm the safe space right now. I'm the space that's empowering you to share your story. And this story isn't just inspiration, it's also information. It has huge purpose if it's just put in the right space. And so through collaborating with my dad, I then collaborated with our peers and we started forming this group. And this group has slowly over the last couple of years grown into this beautiful community, not just of survivors, but of supporters, of health professionals, of researchers, all people in the tapestry of trauma connecting and collaborating and using story as the vehicle for connection. And so we had all of this. We've got, now people from 56 countries. We've got 1,300 people. It's amazing. We're sort of going places. And how do we sort of make this into something? We need to evidence our approach. And evidencing our approach as an organization is fundamental for creating our social impact. And so now I want to introduce you to one of the products that we've developed. One of those products is called Genius Roundtable. So Genius Roundtable is an online peer-led focus group for bespoke research, meaningful market research, for niche groups, defined cohorts, peer-led, to create a space that evokes curiosity and uses story to evidence an experience and to get a non-biased approach. That's the most important thing about what we're trying to do with Genius Roundtable. And we've found through our partnerships with the National Stroke Foundation, with Monash University, with La Trobe University, we've been able to create this huge, not only this evidence base, but also this mobilized community that want to use story to not only connect, but create pathways of empowerment for others. So partnering in the beautiful round table is something that is so important to us, and it's something that we are looking to continue to scale and to help the world and create a social impact that is meaningful and measurable. The next thing that happened was COVID. So you also undoubtedly got thrust into isolation. And in this isolation experience, which people with acquired disability or otherness from trauma have been experiencing for a really long time, are kind of like the true experts of innovating in isolation. So what we did was we basically unplugged the social connections component of Roundtable and applied that to a series of meetup groups that happen regularly for our posse. But what that also needed was peers to host it. So we still have that non-bias. We still have that way of increasing agency within the group and also mobilizing the community. So we do that through a capacity building program that underpins all of it, which further provides that pathway for participation for people who have often been reduced to feeling like a consumer of their experience, when actually they are the lived expert of that experience. And that's what we highlight and try and proliferate through our products and services. Which brings me to our current amazing product, the Genius Journey. This is our fundamental safe space. I actually don't know if I've talked about safe spaces yet, so I want to cover that. Now, something that happened before I go into the Genius Journey, every single space we create is about it being safe. In that, what happened when we connected our community of health professionals and the industry, I remember I was at this Accessible and Inclusive Cities. I was a feasibility study, and I was part of this key task force. And I remember being in this session, and it was about community infrastructure, and the question came up of what makes strong community infrastructure. And I put my hand up and I said safe spaces. And then they said, yes, what does everyone think about that? And then there was like, yes, we need better lighting. Yes, we need rails. Yes, we need areas that don't have too much going on sensory-wise, so that it provides space for someone who might have sensory overload, like myself, to feel empowered and sit in that space. And I was like, yes, that is it. A safe space definitely needs all of those things. But that's the modicum we should be operating with. That should already be there. When I talk about a safe space and when Genius talks about creating a safe space, it's about creating a specific, affirmative, fun, and engaging space. It's not just about the physical, it's about the emotional, it's about the mental, it's about the health and well-being of everyone in that space and what it conjures up. So being specific, it's about being personal, being positive, being playful, tapping into that brain center and making it participative. You know, it's not just a push, it's about push and pull and having relationships and building upon that. And that relationship building, that push and pull is something that we have embedded and want to continue embedding in the Genius journey, in the platform that uses gamification and rewards to incentivize participation and increase currency of story. You know, this is about navigating with narrative. This is about figuring out, how do we actually empower people? Well, we do it through partnership. So by using artificial intelligence, we've partnered with Mesh AI to deliver some amazing AI that's going to help increase the richness of our alumni and our users to reach the most optimal quality of life that they can in navigating their journey. So if you are someone who has your fancy hat on, whether you're an innovator, whether you're an investor, whatever you might be, your expertise could be so valuable in this platform and in our story, because it is our story. It's everybody's story. Every single one of us are now touched by trauma and we get it, so let's change it. So if you want to get on the Genius train, please, I welcome you. If you're interested, please hit me up. My email address is caleb@geniusnetwork.com. I would love to hear from you and find out how you can be part of this narrative. But let's do it. Let's navigate with narrative and do it together. Come and join us. You know, let's just be like Uber, who have disrupted the taxi industry, or like Airbnb, who have completely disrupted the hotel industry, or even, let's be a little bit like Tinder, who's disrupted the dating industry. Come, please, bring your expertise to the fore, join Genius, and together, let's disrupt the isolation industry.